Setbacks are temporary, but comebacks, they are legendary. Welcome back to the PSI Effect, where we pause, shift, and ignite purpose that speaks louder than your past. This is Neug, and together with Franky, we're your hosts in this space, and your comeback starts now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the PSI Effect Podcast. If you're new to the space, we want to welcome you, and to all of our listeners who have been around for a while, thank you for being here. We do want to invite everyone to like and follow and subscribe our podcast. That helps the, as they say, the algorithms, and helps folks find us who really want to be a part of the space and learn some new things that maybe they didn't know before, and hopefully we can help them out in life. But that aside, we do welcome you here. We have some interesting conversation for you today. I've been looking forward to it, and I believe Franky has too. But Franky, it's good to see you. And as always, tell us what's going on with you.
Nuge, it feels like we hadn't been in here in a month of Sundays, as we're approaching, we're into February, we're coming up on Valentine's soon. And I was surprised with the winter weather that we just had. It feels like that kind of got in our way a little bit to keep us out of the studio. But
man, somebody told me I moved south, but I swear this is not the South.
Look, you need to take that weather back to Michigan where you came from.
Take it and drop it off.
Facts. But, it was good to get outside with the kids in the snow and do some sledding and stuff like that. But, now it's back to business, and I've been excited for this all week. Just an opportunity to get back in the studio. But more importantly, we've got a real special guest with us today. I'm going to let her give a full introduction a little bit later, but to introduce our guest to the audience, she's many things. I could spend the whole episode telling you all about what she does and all the things that she's experienced and how she can help folks in their lives. But let me just start with the small things. She's a world champion dancer, a marketing professional, an endurance athlete, a content creator, a fitness professional in multiple disciplines. But most importantly, I like to call her my friend. And I'm very excited to have Erica LaGarde with us here on the podcast today. Erica, welcome to PSI. Glad to have you here.
Oh, it's
You're
so
welcome.
fun to be here. Thanks so much.
So while we're in the spirit of Valentine's, and Erica, I wanted to make sure that we got you involved in this part of the conversation too. I had a flashback thinking about Valentine's when I was a younger kid, and that whole experience of Valentine's Day, kind of like in the classroom setting where you would spend the week, decorating your little Valentine's mailbox that you were going to sit on the corner of your desk. And then everybody brought in Valentines for the entire class. And, everybody got their Valentines. And it was one of those things where, everybody, we're all celebrating everybody's love. But man, was there pressure there. There was pressure because, well, at least for me, and I want to hear from you guys. I knew for me, I was pressured because if you didn't pick the right Valentine, it's like, oh, that's whack. You didn't get the Transformers Valentines. Those are whack. So that was one piece of judgment. And then the other, if you didn't get the cool candy, you were just, oh man, like if you came in with those chalky hearts with the little writing on them, man, you better get out of here with that mess. Is that ringing any bells for y'all?
Yes. I really, when you said that, I thought immediately about, one year I was a hero. I think it was like maybe third grade. I had found they were like Reese cup Valentines. And the Valentine was actually like a little box, and the Reese's was inside. And it was like the coolest thing. I dazzled people that Valentine's Day. I think I peaked there, and it's not really been as good since.
That's awesome. What about you, Nuge?
Well, I probably date y'all a little bit. So, the chalky hearts, that was something that we really enjoyed at that point in time. I don't think we had the Reese's hearts at that point, but we did have the Valentine cards, and we did bring them in, pass them out. And of course, you had one or two of those Valentines that you wanted to give to somebody special.
Oh, now you're talking.
And you would hope that you would get something special back from that same person, But yeah, it was kind of fun. It was a big deal, all of the arts and crafts that surrounded it, bringing it home to mom and dad and that kind of stuff. So it was kind of fun.
That special Valentine. Now, I
Yeah.
know I had that special Valentine, and this is my thing. I had a plan, how it was going to go down. I thought I was passionate about it, but I would chicken out. I was like, man, I can't do it. Can't do it. Can't do it. Had it ready. Can't do it. And then by the time you get to the end of the day, the chocolate's all melted. It's all gross.
You're
And I was
just gonna keep it for yourself at that
like,
point.
exactly. At that point, it's just extra snack, right?
Oh, wow. That's funny.
Oh, man.
Plan
But,
didn't go down right.
but I think that's a great segue into our conversation today. And I think that, really lands in Erica's wheelhouse really well. It's just the notion of, plans, things that we're passionate about, how those things kind of intersect and interact, and then just, being able to love ourselves through, all of our journey. And I really want our conversation to, go in that direction today as we get into things. So as promised, Erica, why don't you tell us a little bit more in depth about you and just introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah. So, as Frankie mentioned, I wear many hats. I've been very fortunate, I think, to have a lot of curiosities, um, and in different areas. And I think it's kind of fun because now I'm in a fairly new space. I've been a contractor in the fitness industry now for about 2 years full time. And that just means that I work at a bunch of different studios and I have a bunch of little gigs here and there, and kind of piecing together a livelihood, doing a lot of different things. And some of those things are very freelance. And so the marketing background is coming into play. There's been a lot of opportunities for me to reinvent myself. And I think I'm grateful to be in a space now where it feels like all of those things are coming together with really positive momentum. Um, if we would have had this conversation a couple years ago, I would have been kind of like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm having fun. And so, after kind of surfing the waves a little bit, now the fun has some structure to it. And there's this fun path forward, where I get to do a lot of what I love, which is coach movement. I work with folks one-on-one, and I also teach group fitness classes. I teach yoga, I teach mat Pilates, I teach strength training, and then coaching people one-on-one as well in those various disciplines. And it's just I love movement. I feel like it's been kind of a mainstay for me in my life. And being able to kind of take a journey with other people and earn their trust and be able to help them increase their activity levels and find joy in movement is, I think, the coolest thing ever. And I'm really grateful that I get to do that.
So that passion, and it's awesome how you package that for us to talk about a lot of things now kind of coming together and intertwining in a way that you wouldn't have been able to see a little while ago. Can you talk a little bit more about some of the stops along the way that led you to where you are now?
Yeah. So way back when I was in college, I kind of had two jobs when I was in college, and I worked in restaurants. And so I worked in the hospitality industry, and then I taught dance classes. And both of those industries were service based. I had people that, had needs and concerns that I had to make sure everything was going all right. I had to curate their experience. And I really came to love that service sort of place. And but I knew, I was like, financially, I probably should do something else. I probably should use my degree or whatever. And so I after graduating college, I was like, okay, let me go to work. Let me go to work in this corporate world and try to figure things out. And from there, I was always wanting to be creative. And it's funny because if you have creative passions, a lot of times as you try to look for work, people are like, oh, well, you have to have experience, doing this creative thing. You got to prove that you're really good at this creative thing. Um, and so in that way, it's kind of hard. It's hard to get started. as a creative, whether you want to be, you know, a dance teacher or whether you want to be an artist or whatever it is. And so there's sometimes some practical advice that's like, hey, you know, use this management side, use this other thing that you have going on. So I was like, all right, I'll give that a try. And so I went off to the corporate world and I tried, you know, a couple of different roles, but it was never like a full send, right? Like I enjoyed it, but I was like, I still, you know, it's not the thing I fully want to do with my time. Like I wasn't like waking up every day, like, I can't wait to go to this office. Like it was not like that. And like silly me, I was like, I feel like, you know, I feel like you can have it all. So there was this narrative that I grew up with that you can do anything you want. You can like be a unicorn and, you know, have a happy life and do what you love and the money will come, right? That's what they say. And then when you try to do that practically, it's like, but the money, like we need that, right? We need to survive. So it's like, how do you reconcile it? And so I was like, I'll just do both things, right? I'll do the thing that pays the bills and then I'll do the fun thing. And so I did that for many years. And Frankie can vouch for this. As I was doing my very first yoga teacher training, I had a live audience at our office. And so I would host yoga classes and I would get my practice hours. And I mean, looking back, it's so cool that I worked for an organization that would support that and allow me to send emails to my coworkers and recruit them to come take classes with me. Like, I don't take that for granted at all. And yeah, so it was like I had these little glimmers along the way, these little moments of like, okay, well, maybe, you know, maybe there is something to this. And, you know, from those little classes, you know, practice classes at the office, it evolved into this really nice sort of like, okay, well, now that I have my certification, you know, I don't know if I want to work at a studio, but maybe I can continue to do things on my own. And so over the years, I started to kind of just juggle both things. I was in the corporate world and I was enjoying that. And I was learning a lot about marketing and growing business, but then I was also honing my craft as an instructor. And it's like, you know, the same thing happened to me in college. Every time I would take a fitness class, I was like, ooh, I want to teach that, you know, like, ooh, I love that. I had fun. I want to teach it. I want to be an instructor. And so I just more and more and more certifications. And then it got to a point a couple years ago where the company that I was working for, there was a change of ownership and the structure of my department, my marketing department became kind of unclear. It was like, well, what's going to happen? Are we going to go into like a corporate thing? Are we going to be able to do our own thing? What's going to happen to my role? And at that point, I had an opportunity to work full-time in fitness. It was a studio that I was already a part-time instructor at. And they wanted to grow a new avenue of the business. And they were like, hey, we'd love for you to come in and do this thing. And I was like, the universe is speaking. This is my time. This is my time. And I will leap away from this corporate life and I will full on into fitness full time, right? Like it's not exactly the exact thing that I want, but it's a foot in the door. So let's go. And about 3 months after I took that job, I realized that it was a terrible mistake. Because ultimately the person's vision for that job was a corporate behind the desk, cold calling, building the pipeline. Like you know what I mean? Like I left corporate to ultimately have somebody that wanted me to be the business manager for the studio.
Try to build that business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, wait a minute. Like this is not how I wanted this to go. And so, you know, through a few missteps, I was like, well, you know, maybe I can try this thing and I'll try to have the same sort of job at a different studio. And like that didn't work out. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll go back to corporate. And I was shopping my resume around and like that was not working out. And I was like, okay, well, like what do I do at this point? And so I was kind of floundering. I was like teaching a lot of classes at a bunch of different studios. And I had somebody reach out to me that I'd worked with in the past. And they were like, hey, girl, are you like, okay? Like, it looks like you're teaching like 15 classes a week at like 6 different places. Like, how's that going? And when the person asked me that, like I remember I was in their office and I just like started crying. Like I was just like boo-hooing. And it was like, this is not fun. Like, this is not what I wanted. Like, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be like. And I'm making enough. I don't know what the opportunities are. Like, you know, my classes are full, right? Like people want to take my classes. They tell me that I'm their favorite instructor, but at the same time, like, why can't I pay my bills? Like, what's going on here? Um, and so it kind of took a minute for me to like really sit with it and understand kind of what was the best path forward. And to kind of
That's
bring
a
it back.
good point. And I don't want to cut you off, but that's a good point because it sounds like at that point right there, you are at the pause phase. This is the Pause, Shift, and Ignite podcast. So you are at that pause phase. And tell the audience, like, when did you realize that you just really had to make that pause and take a different direction? Because your career, it sounds like, was always on this trajectory right forward. You were moving forward, maybe not at the pace that you wanted to, but tell us a little bit about that point when you recognized that you had to just like pause and take a beat and figure out the next step.
Yeah. I So one thing that's kind of different in the fitness industry than maybe some other industries is there's a lot of like handshake deals. There's a lot of texting. There's a lot of like, yeah, we had this conversation and then it's just going to like happen somehow, right? There's not a lot of like contracts. There's not a lot of like, pen and paper type of thing. And so essentially what happened is took I took a job to get out of a bad situation and had no protections. There was no contract involved. It was like, hey, we need you for this many hours. You're going to start this date. This is the pay rate. And I was like, okay, that's all good. I quit the job where I was to take this new hourly position. And the night before I was supposed to start, they called me and they were like, oh, that's not going to work. We're not going to do that. We're not going to move forward with that position right now. And we'll let you know. Like, we can offer you a couple of hours a week doing XYZ, basically, anyway. Yeah. So they offered me like a tenth of what they said they were going to be able to offer. And my heart sank because like, I'm a homeowner, I have 3 pets, like I have responsibilities. I had a car payment at the time. And my only income was 3 outdoor yoga classes a week at the park that were donation based. So like, I was supporting a full on household and then going from that to like nothing and not really having any prospects. And so, yeah, like that was the moment of like, literally like, like there's a pucker feeling. I'm sure
Yeah.
everybody
That's a great adjective.
of like, oh gosh, what are we gonna do now? And fortunately I had some savings and things like that. So it wasn't like a full on, it was a pretty big crisis though, because I was used to being able to, support myself, support our household, do the things that I needed to do, make the payments that I needed to make. And this was the first time in life where I was really like, I do not know like how we are going to pay the mortgage next month. Like, this is scary. And coming from corporate background where you have like an HR department and you got like 401k and benefits and it's so cute and all of that, to having like none of that, I was like, oh, like I know that not everybody in the world has a corporate job with a 401k. So like, how are people doing it? How are they doing it? And it was at that point that I realized that like I needed more ownership in what I was doing. So like talking about the self-love thing, like I really believed in what I brought to the table. I really believe in myself as an instructor. I believe in the connection that I can bring, new clients in. And like, I really believe in myself. But I found that I was like, I kept anytime I had to think about owning my own business or like opening a studio or doing a video channel, I was like, nah, that's not me. I'm better working for somebody else. Like I can support somebody else, but like I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have it. I don't have what it takes to like, do these things. And so really it got to the point where like I had no other choice. Like I had to figure something out. Like I had to figure out like how can I be more entrepreneurial in this space? How can I increase my earning potential and create more structure and comfort for myself? Because I mean, I'll be honest, and we can take this in another direction. I have a checkered past. And so when I went for that second round of trying to find corporate jobs in late 2024, I was not getting calls back. And I finally got some feedback on that. And, I have a DUI from 2016 and it's 10 years ago, but it still shows up. And especially right now in this job market, even things that might seem small like that, like they will really diminish your chances of being a viable candidate for jobs. And so, you had two things, right? I had like literally no prospects, and then I did not have a pathway back into corporate where I was comfortable. So I was like sandpaper, uncomfortable in a very like, fight or flight nervous system place.
But you were passionate about what you wanted to do. You were
Yes.
just
And
trying to figure out how to actually get that part done.
here's what cemented it for me, right? Like at that point, I could no longer afford therapy. And the thing that was helping me was like meditation app. And I had I'm an endurance athlete. And so I was like, okay, I know I can do this thing, right? That's good for me. That's going to help my anxiety. Even if I don't have money to like pay for a race, I can still create like a place for me to show up for myself. Mentioning that DUI, I've struggled with anxiety, depression, and substance abuse for many years. And one of the things that helps me take care of myself are my workouts and my fitness practice, my movement practice, right? Like it's not always a big run. It's not always a huge lift. Sometimes it's like just rolling around on the yoga mat and taking some deep breaths, but saying, okay, like I'm going to give myself a job, right? I have to show up to this structured thing for myself. And even though I might feel terrible, right? Like, even though it's, been 8 years since the DUI, but somebody brought it up on my resume and now I'm right back to that place of self-loathing and feeling terrible and low. Like, what is going to get me out of this? Well, what's accessible to me? The street and my tennis shoes, or like a little headphones and like a dance party in my kitchen. And so like, as I was, coming back to movement practice from a place of self-love, from a place of like, I need this to help myself get through the day.
Coping
I was like,
mechanism there.
well, that's the platform right there. Like I don't want to work with bodybuilders. Like I don't want to work with, the like Pilates mom that wants the sculpted abs. She's cool. I don't have any problem with her. But like, I want to help people who feel like they don't have any time. Or like, I have 30 minutes a week. What movement practice do I have? What does that look like for me? Hey, I got something for you. Right? Because I've been there. And so I think that's, that's been the whole thing of like, even at your very lowest, even at, with very little resources, you can use breath work, you can take a walk, you can do some gentle movement, and like that can get you out of whatever is going on, whatever negative headspace or triggering thing that's happened, and kind of get your nervous system back so that you can function. And it's from those building blocks that now I'm like, okay, well, when I'm choosing studios to work at, it's like, well, whose message and whose values resonate with mine? Who's going to allow me to create accessible programming? I love this boutique studio, but what about people that can't pay $50 a class? What can I do for them? And so, I don't think it would have happened without the tragic firing and loss of a job. You know what I mean? Like without those little mini traumas, like I don't think the path really kind of reveals itself. Um, but I would say, yeah, like the rock bottom moment was literally like, I'm going to make $75 this week. Like, we got to figure it out.
Yeah, that was quite the setback. And thank you for being personal and sharing about the DUI, because I can imagine there's some folks in our audience that may have had the same or similar type of major setbacks in their life. But what did you do? How did you come back from that to start, loving yourself again and just believing in yourself again?
So, like, we're in a time where there's like podcasts and stuff, right? And there's a lot of like different resources and you can listen to things. And like one of the things that I was always very curious about is like, like what will people think and say, right? Like, what will people think and say, and like how can I get in front of what people may think and say? And so what happened with the DUI, the same thing happened with my kind of fun employment period from middle of 2024 to about the beginning of last year. But in those moments, there's so in those moments when you're curious about what's happening and how you're feeling and how people are going to receive things, like that, I found created anxiety for me, right? So like worrying about what other people would say and think, and trying to get in front of it of like, let me be honest, right? And sometimes it's like an oversharing. And I would realize that as I would try to get in front of what I was afraid people were going to say, like I would make the situation uncomfortable. And that would happen kind of repeatedly. And I think ultimately what I realized, and I had somebody give me some feedback, which was really valuable too. But like nobody that I shared authentically with, like yelled at me or made me feel bad, right? No matter what is going on in my life, whether it was getting arrested in 2016, whether it was, making some poor choices and not having a job for a few months, whether it was, double booking a client on accident. If you say, hey, this happened, I own it. Let it land, because that sort of like inability to just say, hey, this happened, and like not say another thing, like that is kind of step one in the forgiveness and self-love place. When we're struggling, or I won't say when I'm struggling to forgive myself for something, when I feel really bad about a decision, I will try to intellectualize it or explain it away to other people. And the more you do that, the more space that you kind of create between you and them. And it makes it difficult for them to have their own feelings because you're telling them what to think. And you know what I mean? Like you're kind of creating a self-fulfilling situation. And so it is scary sometimes. It's scary to kind of like sit in that truth and be like, hey, this is what happened. This is how I feel, or this is what I did, or whatever. And just pause. And I think what happens in that space, right? How the other person reacts will give you a lot of kind of insight into who they are and how they feel about you. But I think it's that forgiveness, right? It's that idea of like, well, if I want to believe people are capable of change, and if you want to kind of see the best in others, you have to be willing to do that for yourself. And it's so funny because we flip it the other way all the time, right? Like treat other people how you would want to be treated. Well, yeah, but also treat yourself the way that you would treat other people.
I like that.
And I think it's like it's been a lesson that's come up multiple times in my life. It comes up that we were talking about training and plans and things like that. I mean, it comes up as a runner, like whatever it is, whether you're training for a 5K, whether you're training for a 800-meter sprint, whether you're training for like a marathon, like there will come upon times where the training is not smooth sailing, right? There's snow on the ground and you can't do the route you planned, or, something has come up and, you have to be somewhere else. And, it's that same sort of thing of like, all right, well, it's not going to go perfectly, but can I just let that be what that was love myself anyway and say, yes, it's okay, and move forward and say it's part of life. We can have all the plans in the world, but like you can't be a bulldozer with it. And I think in so many ways, even though it was a protective mechanism in the past, I was not loving myself enough to feel like I was worthy of the forgiveness, right? It was more of a, I have to explain it away. I have to make an excuse for it. I have to somehow signal, hey, I know, I have this shame and you don't have to bring it up because I'm already aware of it. I've got it. See? But like people don't really care about that. Like everybody has that.
Yeah.
And so it's actually really cathartic sometimes to be like, hey, this thing, I'm going through this thing. And then someone's like, hey, me too. And then you're like, oh my gosh. And then you can, talk about it together. And then you have a new friend because you've shared something and now you're in that healing process together.
Yeah.
And you mentioned forgiveness. Sorry, Frankie, but the loving yourself, part of loving yourself is forgiveness for yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
How difficult was that for you on that journey?
It was really hard. And it was really hard. And like I kind of mentioned earlier, that sort of critical voice, that what are people going to think? And that fear of what people were going to think about my choices became, oh, well, they're not going to like it. Which became, I'm ashamed, which became, I need some sort of excuse or shield or mask, right? So it was like a process. And so, peeling it back, you have to be a little bit brave in the forgiveness piece. But for me, it shows up as kind of like, it became the reason I wasn't moving forward, right? Like it literally became the thing that was like closing me off to opportunities. And I was lucky to work with a therapist that kind of helped me realize it, and see kind of the patterns. But it is difficult. It is difficult because at the end of the day, like you can have the external narrative, but like we have to kind of live with our own thoughts. And if your narrative is reinforcing the things that you're fearful of course, anything negative that happens to you is going to be paralyzing. And so, it's a process. Like sometimes it's like, it's daily, it's, you have to say, okay, like this is a tough moment. But I'm going to, it's just this moment, right? Like this does not represent my, I'm getting the fear feelings, but like, let's get curious about that. What's that coming from? Right? That's not really because the walls are actually closing in. It's because I got this email that says respond urgently, ! And now I'm, you know what I mean? So
Sure.
I think at the end of the day, it comes back to the body, right? Like, and that's part of my training as a movement coach. I can recognize like when I start to get the neck clenchies or the teeth or my brow, right? And my breath, all of that stuff. You start to notice when that happens and you're like, I am walking around here fuming. And why is that? And it's like, oh, well, I just got 3 alerts from the New York Times about, whatever is happening. And now I'm tense. So the body always lets us know. The body always lets us know. And I'm so grateful that I'm a person that can get excited by lots of different things because that curiosity and that sort of like squirrel, shiny, like I think has kept me energized, and it gives me, I guess, stamina for the many failures that I have endured and will endure in the future as a part of my growth. But yeah, and so I think now I feel like it's kind of cool and have this like little algorithm of like, okay, if I do the math right, every 3 to 5 years, my life will explode. But I have the tools every single time to build it back better. Is it too soon? I shouldn't have said that. But you know what I'm saying? Like I
No.
can evolve it. If anything, I've proven to myself that like, hey, if you stay the course and you focus and you love yourself through these mishaps, there will be a good thing. You know what I mean? There will be more good things coming. So
Yeah, I really like how you kind of encapsulated the notion of the stumbles and the setbacks and our failures. And we've talked about this in some previous episodes about the notion of failure doesn't define us. It's a data point that allows us to make better decisions or different decisions the next time we
maybe
come
you
across
were
it.
where I got that from, because I'm always telling people, they're like, "Oh, I had a bad workout." And I'm like, "It's just a data point.
There you
Don't
go.
run after tacos. We learned that."
Oh, running after tacos. No. I distinctly remember, tangent, I distinctly remember you and I and two other of our training partners, we did a night run in Umstead. It was like a
R.I.P.
rack.
to that frog.
And I made the mistake of eating at Qdoba before we went on that 10-mile run. And you just
Oh,
brought
what a
back,
time that was.
you just brought back all the dread of that run. I feel sloshy right now. Oh my God.
But we did learn something, and that is when it is nighttime and you cannot see those jagged mountains, you don't know what's coming, and you're just having a happy time. You might step on a frog or two, but other than that,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Another thing that you mentioned, when you got to this latest point where it prompted the pause and the shift in your mindset, that you sat down and had a conversation. Somebody reached out and they noticed weight on you or that you were going through something.
mhm.
And, you made mention of it in some of your other transitions before, having people in the space, almost like accountability partners. Can you speak a little bit about the importance of having somebody like that you can be truly open and transparent with, or who know you well enough to be able to say, "Hey, Frankie, hey, Erica, hey, Neug, what's going on? Something seems a little off."
Yeah, I think that that's so important, and it's I think it was it was actually an ATI event, not an ATI event, but an event that I went to when I worked at ATI. And it was a leadership conference in supply chain management, and I got to hear Mel Robbins speak. And she's amazing. She has a fantastic podcast. People probably know who she is. But it was really impactful for me. And one of the things that she empowered everybody to do is she basically was like, if you have an idea, you need to get it out of your brain and either write it down or share it with somebody within 5 seconds of having it. Because within 5 seconds after that, at second 6, your brain starts to talk you out of it because it starts to get a little uncomfortable.
Mm.
And on the other side of that, she was like, okay, now that you've got all this momentum, I want everybody, and it was probably 300 or 400 people at this conference. She was like, I want everybody to get up right now and go stand near somebody who you think looks cool. And everybody was like,
No pressure.
what? And I'm like, people are going to come stand by me, And I'm like, no. She's like, no, don't wait for people to come to you. Just go stand by somebody. And once we did that, she was like, now tell them an idea that you have. She was like, you got nothing to lose. Just tell them an idea. And the whole thing was like, love yourself enough to think that you're cool, right? To think that you are worthy of whatever it is. Love your idea. Be passionate about what you're doing enough to be able to pitch it, because you never know. It could be an Uber driver. It could be literally anybody in this world that may have something that can help you.
Okay.
So talk about your passions, talk about what you love, ask people what they like, and it's, you don't have to be salesy. You can be conversational, but also, curate it. And so I think that's a big thing too, of I am much more open now. And I think with Erica, who's my boss now at the gym, we tried to work together in the past and it didn't work out. It just wasn't the right timing, but I shared with her what my goals were and what I really wanted. And so then when she saw me kind of not doing that, she was like, "Hey girl, what you doing?" And it was nice, and I've had some kind of similar moments since then. People well, I thought you were going to do this. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Not everybody is motivated by external stimulus in the same way. I am. Even I think with my very first marathon, I told everybody in the office that I was doing it because I wanted them to ask me about it, because I knew if they asked me about it, then I would continue to train. But that's me, right? Like I have somebody in my life that they don't like that at all. That sort of external stimulus makes them feel a lot of pressure. So it's not for everybody, but that's what I think. I think that telling people not like, I'm going to try to make $1 billion. How can you help me? But like, I'm really passionate about fitness and helping people get moving, just average folks, right? Not anybody who's training for Boston or not somebody that wants to be a bodybuilder and have 12 visible abs. No, but mom who thinks she's too busy but wants to get started strength training. So if you know anybody, like let them, you know what I mean? Like there's ways to do it, I guess. But it still comes from that place of believing that what your goals are, you want to do, are worthy of the world, because I bet you they are.
That is awesome. You mentioned earlier about the role therapy has played along the way. That's a recurring conversation that we have here on the PSI Effect, and how Neug and I are not therapists or consultants in any way, but we are very passionate about, if you have access to therapy, go seek it, because we strongly believe therapy can help open pathways, or help you see pathways that are open for you. Can you talk about your experience, with therapy a little bit? We don't have to dig too deep into that, but just how it impacted you.
Yeah. It was really kind of like, and I tried it a couple of times. And like the first time was sort of like a knee-jerk reaction of like, okay, I got arrested. I should probably talk to somebody about that. We had a couple sessions. I didn't really have a grasp of how the process worked. And so in those first couple sessions, it was really tough, because as your therapist is getting to know you, you got to deep dive. You got to talk about some of the stuff. And so I was expecting to like lay on the couch for like 30 minutes, have her give me like a little checklist and like, okay, good to go. Nah, that's not how. And so like the first time, I was like, didn't really vibe with me. I was like, this is kind of dragging me down. I don't want to do it. And so I didn't stick with it. The second time was better. But I did not have, I'll be honest, my therapist was a white man. And I was like, there's a couple things that we're just going to not really connect on, just as a function of like who we both are. And so that brings me to the Help and Headway. So BetterHelp and Headway are two sort of digital therapy products, counseling products, if you will, that are out there. And for people like me who are freelance contractor, who are like, I don't have health insurance. That's a whole nother podcast. But per some things that have taken place, I can no longer afford health insurance. So now I have my therapy through a platform that allows me to cash pay, but still connects me with a really awesome therapist. So even though I don't have health insurance anymore, I was able to continue working with my provider, which is like so amazing, right? Like I can't afford to go as much, but I can still see her. We have plans back and forth. And so we kind of keep things rolling in a way that's accessible to me. And like, that's really life-changing. Because I think one of the misconceptions with therapy is that we have to like have like a grave, gross trauma befall us to merit going to therapy. And I'll go ahead and say this. I think I can go out on a limb here. Most of us are in therapy because other people in our lives don't want to go to therapy, right? Like everybody, there's not a single person on this earth that would have a worse life if they talk to a counselor. It's just not, right? So there's a lot of tools and there's a lot of things that can come out of it, but it kind of comes from that thing of like the bravery and love of yourself of saying, and I remember going into my first couple sessions with the person that I work with now, and like, I don't know if I like need to be here. I don't know if my stuff's bad enough, and she's like, get out of here. Like, if you think you'll get something out of it, then you will. And so, it's really cool. It's really cool to be able to speak with somebody that does not have any, like, we're not in each other's lives on a day-to-day basis, right? Like we talk about the sessions, and there's an objectivity to it. And I have homework, which I really like. I can't believe I'm going to say that, but like there's things for me to work on between appointments. And that kind of helps keep me active in the process as well. And so I think of it just as I have a movement practice, I have a mental health practice, and all of that falls under my self-care. So
So
like, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I'm just curious, like, what would you tell people in our audience who are, that they're trying to decide if this therapy thing is right for them or that will help them? Like what would you tell someone who is kind of in that limbo state trying to figure it out and whether or not they go and they get that seek out that therapist or not?
I guess the question that I would ask is if like if there was something that you could do yourself as an individual to positively impact the way that you feel on a day-to-day basis, whether you're like recovering from a traumatic event, whether you're dealing with anxiety, whatever stresses you, if there's something that you could do to be more prepared to kind of handle those disruptions of life, would you do it? And if the answer to that question is yes, then give therapy a try. Even if you think nothing is wrong, even if you don't feel like you should be here. Because one thing that has been a very surprising benefit of my mental health practice is and Frankie knows this, I was a communications specialist in my previous life. Communications specialty is communications. I thought I had it all. I do not. I'm not a great communicator with my partner. Okay. And therapy has given me some tools to improve my relationship with my partner and to help me be a better communicator. Not in the sense of, yes, I can communicate. I can write a paper. I can, translate a thought. But when it comes to the person that's in my home, that's not me, that's different than me, that's understanding myself, helps me be better for that person. So like there's also, you know what I mean? Like if there's, it sounds really cheesy, but like, do you want to have more agency over how you feel? Yes. Well, then go to therapy, like if you want to have some tools to like de-escalate yourself when you get stressed, try therapy.
I think this is a good episode for our audience because I believe it's hard for some people to make that leap, to take that leap.
Yeah.
And it's in a way it's a leap of faith. It's also, I think, um a point in your life where you have to have some love for yourself to say, I need to get some help, to
Mm-hmm.
love yourself enough to be able to make that decision. And so to hear you talk about it, I think it will be impactful for folks in our audience. And I just really appreciate you sharing to the degree that you have and just going really deep and getting really raw for our audience. And that's been really special.
Yeah, I don't have an opportunity to do that a lot. Hope I didn't overshare. But yeah, no, it's cool. It's not something I get to talk about all the time. But it really is. I mean, the last thing that I'll say about therapy and counseling and any sort of, services like that, it's not about judgment or validation, right? Like it's not about the person you're talking to judging you. It's not about the person you're talking to help you judge somebody else. It's not about validating your feelings. It's about, a lot of time, it's about questioning. For me, it's taught me how to be more curious about what comes up and less judgmental of myself.
So as we get ready to close out the conversation, Eric, I want to kind of go back to the beginning. When you started telling us about yourself, you started in college, and so, we know you went to that red school in Raleigh that shall not be named.
Go back.
But
I tried to wear a neutral color today, Frankie. I was going to bring it up.
that's okay. It's okay. I still love you. I want you to think about, looking backwards through the journey that you've been on. You've had a lot of stops in your story, and your story is still being written. If you had 1 minute to go back in time to tell Erica, the college student, what's ahead of her, what would you tell her?
I would say, I'm going to quote Sister Act 2 and Whoopi Goldberg. And what she says to Lauryn Hill's character in that movie, she was like, if you wake up every day and you think about nothing but singing, and that's what you want to do, then you're meant to be a singer. And I would say that to myself, right? Quit trying to shrink the part of yourself that does not get as many gold stars as the other part, right? The creative part that people don't want you to pursue because they're afraid of how it's going to turn out. Don't appease them. Lean into the things that make you feel alive, because I would say there are, between my pets, my partner, and my movement practice, like, those are the things that at the very darkest times, like, get me out of bed, get me up, get me back into my body and back into like this world so I can function. And so, yeah, like, and I would say that as a check of like, anything, if you have an opportunity and it's going to mean less movement, less creativity, that's not for you. Don't even waste your time trying to prove to yourself how badass you are because you can do things that you don't want to do. Don't do that. Focus on what lights you up.
Focus on the passion. I like it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. So Erica, as we get ready to pass the baton to Neug to close us out, tell the audience where they can find you if they want to interact with you, reach out to you, take some of your classes. Where can they find you?
Yeah. Oh gosh, all the things. So I have a website called movewellwitherica.com that you can find pretty much all the places where I teach classes or all my offerings. I've got an outdoor yoga meetup group called Outdoor Flow Yogis. Those are all my in-person classes that are around the triangle. I have a Patreon, Move Well with Erica on Patreon. So you can take videos with me if you are not located in the triangle area. And then, of course, I have Move Well personal training out of Brick Studio in Raleigh. And I have an Instagram, Happy Dancing Yogi on Instagram, all the things. I can send you all this stuff because I just like, pow, 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 pow. But big digital footprint.
Yeah, there's that marketing.
Yes, no TikTok though. Can't do it. I feel like I'm too old for that.
We'll definitely forward that information, and we will post it along with this episode so that folks can easily find you if they so desire.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just, again, I just want to thank you for being here in this space. I mean, it's a very, very enlightening conversation, and I got a lot out of it. And your energy and passion and just your raw nature, I think that is going to impact a lot of our audience. So I just want to thank you again for that.
Absolutely. Got to keep it zesty and fun.
Perfect. Well, listen, everybody, again, thank you for being here. And just remember that setbacks are temporary. Those comebacks are legendary. And until next time, be brave and rise on purpose.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the PSI Effect Podcast. This show doesn't happen without you, and you can connect with us via Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcasts. Visit our website at thisispsipod.com and find us on YouTube and social media at This Is PSI Pod. That's at This Is PSI Pod. Until next time, remember, be brave and rise on purpose.